All righty. So Brendan, thank you so much for joining me today. Really appreciate it. Being a strong product leader, and we've worked together in the past.
Yeah.
Really would
Yeah.
love to pick your brain today on product-led growth. It seems to be a pretty hot topic.
Yeah, it sure is. It's basically a way. The way I think of product-led growth is that the product is at the center of customer acquisition in terms of enabling customers to try the product and then ultimately buy the product to be able to land within a department and then expand within that department across departments, and then also adding a viral component to it to basically, because we all know word of mouth is perhaps one of the most powerful forms of marketing, and to get a user to advocate on behalf of the product within an organization, that's hard to beat.
Yeah, absolutely. When I think about product-led growth, the first thing that comes to mind is either a free trial or a freemium product. But there are a lot of really unique ways, and you and I've even worked on a couple, working over at Atlassian, some of the stuff that we've done in showcasing our products in other people's marketplaces and in other very similar types through similar integrations, as well as showcasing other products in our own portfolio within our own products as well.
Yeah, it's and you think about it, it's like a customer has certain things that they need to get done. And so then the it's really about it, like product-led growth really borrows from a lot of e-commerce best practices. So it's like where the customer is trying to get something done. How do you introduce the product to them and then enable them to try the product like in a seamless way that then inspires them to say, hey, I'm really getting value out of this and I want to upgrade to the paid product. And then how do you bring other users into that paid product? It could be natively within the product. It could be because that the buyer and the user is so loves the product so much they want to share it with other people in the department. That's kind of the key. That's where the magic happens. And there's a lot of different ways you can implement it, but fundamentally it's what job to be done or what use case is a customer trying to solve. How do you engage with them like at the point in time when they need to solve that problem? And then how do you ensure that they have a great and seamless experience with the product such that they want to bring others into using the product? And a nice aspect of that is if your product naturally requires others to engage with it in order to get value from it from the original user, that is a pretty powerful way to really not just land with that initial user within a department, but also expand to their colleagues within the department.
You raise a really good point. Not only how do you get that one person on board and converted, but how can they help convert others?
Exactly.
Do you have some like an example? What's worked for you?
Yeah, there's kind of the basics, which is, you have a product and you have it on a marketplace or you're offering the product direct to the customer. And
Mhm.
so the starting point is the free trial. So enabling the customer to try the product out and to get significant value from that trial, such that like by the end of that 90-day free trial, they've invested their time, possibly their data and other things in it, such that they want to continue with the product. That's one tactic.
Mhm.
Another sort of tactic with product-led growth is the freemium model, but more with the limited feature set. So you provide a limited feature set that gives you a taste of what that, of what the broader benefits could be, but and then such that you want to upgrade to the fully paid version. That's kind of the core of it, which is like either you're giving access to the full product, you're really investing your time, your data in it, or it's a limited subset that whets your appetite for the broader product. So that's kind of those are sort of core tactics. Second sort of core one is like how you introduce the product to the buyer, and this is where like borrowing from e-commerce, things like personalization come into play. Like if you're in a marketplace and there's lots of different products that you can be choosing from, how do you present the right product to the right user at the right time? How do you do it? And another aspect of product-led growth is, if you're using one product, suggesting other products, like as you're using that existing product, so that and we saw this at Atlassian, whereas you're using Jira or Confluence, presenting, like in terms of suggestions, hey, I see you're trying to do X, you should consider this other tool. So like being able to introduce, products, like within the product itself. This also goes for developer platforms too, like say at Automation Anywhere, where you're using the platform to build bots to automate manual, tedious tasks. Well, rather than like building all those yourself, using a pre-made bot from the marketplace, and then trying it, like to see, am I going to get value from that marketplace product? So those are kind of the core tactics of just acquisition. But once you've got somebody to use it and then buy the full product, that really the next sort of thing that you really need to think through is, what's the incentive to get others to use this product? Is there, and we mentioned this earlier, like what gets others to, like what's the compelling reason why others should use the product? Is it because they have to naturally connect to the product for you to get value from it? Or do we make it easy for you to recommend it to others within your department because you love it so much? Those are kind of the core, like both the acquisition and the viral components that you really have to think long and hard about. What's somebody trying to do? What incentives are you providing them, not just for acquisition, but then for viral spread?
Yeah, let's talk a couple of examples. So, in terms of acquisition, you raise a really good point about value. And with automation, it was simple, and there was a lot of value. Both the people who were sharing turnkey automations with others in their organization. Those who were sharing said, hey, this is the standard of quality of automation that should be created. And then those who are using it don't have to start from scratch and don't have to figure it out on their own. And then
Yeah.
you started talking about the viral nature of it. One of the things that I did when I was over at Telenav is we had HTML5 navigation, essentially navigation that didn't require an application. And so what we ended up doing is we worked with third-party companies. There's a company example, Life 360. It's where parents and kids can find out where each other is and go pick each other up after school. And so what we did was we had a turn-by-turn navigation within the Life 360 app. And so that way, mom doesn't have to worry about, where's my kid? Is he going to be sitting there in the parking lot while I'm waiting to go pick him up? And kid doesn't have to worry, well, when's mom going to get here? So there's value created on both sides for that. One of the things that
Yeah.
I thought was really fascinating about some of the work that we did together over at Atlassian was around Slack, for example. That's a very viral product that everybody loves to use. Then what we were working on is, okay, let's say you copy and paste a link to a Jira ticket within Slack. And Slack says, hey, looks like you're trying to use Jira. Would you like to add that integration to Slack? Now, all of a sudden, you're creating even more value by integrating the two solutions together. And you're absolutely right, Brendan. When you were talking about it has to be seamless, people have to be able to get it quickly, onboard quickly. It has to be easy to use and very transparent when it comes to pricing and what you're going to get for that pricing for that product to convert.
Yeah, exactly. Now one of the pitfalls of that is, you really need, like if you're offering something for free, you really need to think about what's the additional value that you're getting from the paid offering, because you do see a lot of organizations that lead with a freemium model, and then they struggle to get folks to upgrade to the paid model. So they might literally have, like, I've talked to some companies about this. They literally have, let's say, millions of users on the freemium model, but
Yeah.
only a small fraction that have actually upgraded to the paid model. So that's something that you really need to think through deeply and test into, is really understand, like, what's going to motivate somebody to upgrade to the paid offering. are you offering too much value in the free offering where, there's really, I can continue with the free offering indefinitely if it's not time bound. And so you really got to think through the incentives, that you're providing. The other things that you got to think about is product-led growth is great, in terms of landing within, say, a department and an individual, and then potentially expanding to other departments. But companies, can be siloed. And so at a certain point, it does make sense. Like if, let's say, you're landing in certain departments, but you're not expanding beyond those departments, to have a sales organization that can go in and engage and say, hey, we see that you're engaging in the product, like have you considered a site like a broader site license? That can really unlock a broader opportunity. So I think when you think about growth, you shouldn't think about it as, oh, this is solely the way that we go to market. It's an and. It's like we go to market, with product-led growth to land, but then to basically bring the different, like beachheads together inside of an enterprise, that's where a sales team can add a lot of value in terms of saying the value proposition we're offering is not, we can offer you we can help you expand the use of this product internally and at a lower price at a volume discount.
Perfect. That is an absolutely perfect example of how do you get out of those pitfalls? Because all too often, and we've seen this over at Automation Anywhere, if you don't bring in both the business, who are generally the users, and IT together and have everybody on board with getting this solution being the solution of record across IT, that's the only way you're going to be able to seamlessly expand throughout the organization.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Excellent. What other, any other pitfalls do you think that some folks should avoid, and how to avoid it?
I think those are the main ones that come to mind. I think the other thing you really need to think about is how do you evolve? How truly in of mouth, like how do you truly deliver enough value in the free version of the product, not only to get them to convert to the paid version, but once they're in the paid version, why are they going to evangelize it to others?
Mm.
And so it really has to be like two times better than whatever they could do on their own through a homemade solution or from what they can get from a competitor. It's like, how are you really helping that individual get their job done or execute on a scenario? And the best way to do it is within the product itself. Like what naturally requires others to engage in that product to get value from it. So that's like the power of the Atlassian model in terms of Jira. Well, the way you get value from Jira is that you get others to use it. Where you get value from Confluence, to a little bit lesser degrees, you get others to use it in terms of like it being, a way to consolidate thinking. And so thinking about that right from the beginning as you're building your product, like how is this going to help people work better together is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And just helping people also in today's world where so many people are working from home and from different locations all around the globe, being able to work asynchronously and share ideas and progress work forward absolutely a lot of value there to be had. Is there anything that you've seen that is falling out of favor these days when it comes to how organizations are driving growth? Like, let me give you an example.
Yeah.
So often today, like originally that freemium started as an individual kind of a self-serve model where, okay, I see the product, I love the product, and then what? Okay,
Yeah.
well, you need more than just the self-serve model like you're talking about. There's almost like more like a sales assisted model where
Yeah.
they can start getting to more of the senior executives. Anything else that you can share?
Yeah, like when you think about product-led growth, you're building a product, both free and paid, that's going to be that's going to be of interest to a broad audience. And so the question is, like depending on who your target customer is, to what degree do they require configuration, in the product? It's like product-led growth works great when you have a standardized product that can appeal to a broad range of users. But if let's say, the configurations vary by industry or by size of customer, that's where it can get more tricky, in terms of like, can you get the viral adoption, within a department if the needs vary, by your target customers, like, so the beauty of Jira and Confluence and other Atlassian products that are broadly applicable, like they are enabling people to work better together. And we saw that and Automation Anywhere as well, in terms of like, its applicability to enable people to automate manual tedious tasks. But if your product category requires significant configuration or customization, because like just due to the nature of the segment, it can be tougher. And so in some cases, like you can think of like product-led growth in those sort of, sectors where configuration or customization is more required. You can use it as a feeder into your sales team. Offer the free offering, for a limited period of time to give it a taste of what's possible, and then convert to, say, the sales lead that then is, for a salesperson to follow up and have the more focused conversation around the specific needs of that subsector or vertical. So that's a way you can sort of, like, when product-led growth isn't completely relevant for your business, how it can be a feeder for sales leads.
Absolutely. And especially to those partner channels, you raise a really good point. Atlassian was predominantly a partner-led motion. And so if we needed to tailor Jira to a specific workflow or a specific industry or use case, it's very easy to engage a partner who is an expert at that and can get that up and running for you quickly, and even create a longer term plan for you. Okay, well, let's talk about how you could potentially use this in other departments and how we can create a long term plan so that way you can expand use of this and realize value out of it throughout your organization. And that is done at Atlassian so well.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's an interesting point. Like, you can have a product-led growth model where you're enabling the partner,
Mhm.
to configure the product, for either the free version or the paid version, to help that, like, because nothing sells a product best by a customer using it and loving it. So that is an interesting idea. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know that you and I have both talked to a lot of global system integrators and regional consultants who they have whole practices built around Salesforce, for example. How do you create Salesforce and leverage its entire portfolio of products across a large enterprise? And when they're the ones who have the relationships in those larger enterprise accounts, that's really how, and I see this so often where a lot of companies start with some of this product-led growth and go, okay, well, we've been hitting SMB or mid-market and we really want to go up market to enterprise. You really can't do it without those partners. And that can make a
Yeah.
big difference when you really have to think a lot more collaborative than I think a lot of these teams have in the past, where product, marketing, sales, customer success teams, the partners all need to work really closely together to make sure that they're getting that value and the customer is continuing to receive value and that they can expand throughout the organization, because all too often one business unit has no idea what the other business unit is doing. And that's one of the things that we were doing over at Automation Anywhere, was really helping to create that journey of how do you expand the automation and change that culture to have this solution work for everybody and really help them be their best and automate more and do higher value work. And that can all start with product-led growth if somebody just tries it, sees value at it, and can very easily share with others.
Yeah, and the role of marketing is really critical in product-led growth. It shifts to aware, like it borrows from, again, like e-commerce best practices, awareness. Just even being aware of, like, and how you raise awareness around, like how do you reach people that have problems to solve? Whether it's in community forums or through conferences or other means, direct, like, digital advertising and so forth, to get them to actually come and experience the product. Now, some folks may not be ready to experience the product, like they need more information. So content marketing is really important. Like, how do you highlight, how do you use content to really empathize and relate to your user, such that they understand you, they know you understand their problem, such that they want to actually consider, your product. And then it's like being able to rigorously track metrics, like the number, like, what percent are you reaching, what percent that you're reaching actually come to the site, that are coming to the site, that then actually go to the landing page for the product, that actually try the product, and then ultimately convert to buying the product. And then really analyzing at each step of the funnel, where are the friction points, and like what can be optimized, and then providing that feedback back to the product team and the user experience team in terms of, what adjustments need to be made to make it as seamless and as easy as possible. Because one very very true trend within enterprise buying is we're all consumers. We've all gotten used to Amazon in terms of one-click buying and other sort of, e-commerce best practices. The more you can apply those best practices, and not only you're meeting people where they already are, in terms of how they engage in their day-to-day life as consumers, and you're removing friction from the process.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen that happen time and time again where it's like, where is the funnel dropping off? Where are people stuck? And working across all the organization. Sometimes it may be a product situation, sometimes it might not be. I've even seen areas where, like in automation, a lot of times people got stuck on what they call discovery. What's discovery? Well, what do I use automation for? So many of these amazing platforms, those organizations who have platforms that can be used for anything, they want to know, how do I use it and how does it work for me? And
Yeah.
helping to provide a guided experience. Now, as much as possible, absolutely put it in the product itself. I've seen this kind of a progressive discoverability. You saw this in some mobile applications early when mobile phones came around. Was okay, well, what happens if I tap here? What happens if I do this? Or that's how people really learned to use those phones and how they got more value. Oh, I didn't know you could do that. Here, let me show you how you can pinch and zoom. Now, and all of us want to do it with our televisions, but this is how we discover things. And anything that you can do to make it easier for customers along the way requires a really good connection with the product teams and those people who are on the front lines talking to the customers.
Yeah, and another key part of product-led growth is you have to make sure that the customer has a great experience with the paid offering. Because, and that's where, like, if you start seeing churn, you really need to dig into and understand, like, why are customers not happy? Because if your net promoter score, I mean, people calculate it different ways, but the way I think about it is from 0 to 10, you want people to be a 9 or a 10, in terms of their satisfaction. If you start seeing things drift below that in terms of customer feedback on the paid offering, you really need to get in and understand exactly what the issue is and how do you address it as soon as possible. Because that's like, because then that's where you'll see the drop off, and the lack of viral adoption and expanding within a company.
Yeah, there's so many types of products out there where, the churn rate can be pretty high if you're not keeping an eye on that and addressing those kinds of challenges. You also see it in conversations with enterprise deals where there's always an RFP, which means that, hey, there's more than one organization that they're looking at to be that potential vendor for that solution. And so how are you better at? How are you good at meeting those requirements and understanding that? And this is where marketing can help with understanding more from the analysts and from customers and also from the seller team, and bring us just develop some insights around that and bring that back to the product team can make such a world of difference in helping customers get where they need to go.
Yeah, and you also have to think about, because you don't have a salesperson in front of a customer, you have to think proactively about objection handling, like in going from the free offering to the paid offering. And so what do I mean by that? Like, are there sufficient, if it's a marketplace product, especially not being offered by a major company, like that's where things like ratings and reviews are critical. Like, what do other people say? Should I feel confident that like that this is something that I should consider? If it's coming from a small to mid-sized vendor, am I going to be confident why should I be confident in the security of the app or the offering that I'm considering? And that's why things like a security certification program is really important, like we had at Automation Anywhere or at Atlassian too. So it's like you have to also, into moving from the free offering to the paid offering, not just think, is there sufficient value in the paid offering, but what are the objections that somebody's going to have, and how do I address them proactively? Because you can't have a salesperson in front of them answering those questions.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Just bringing it back to how can we in the product every day delight those users and give them more value than they thought they could actually get from it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. Any last thoughts? It's been a great conversation.
No, I mean, it's just, hey, thanks for arranging this. I mean, I am a big believer in product-led growth. I mean, it really has the opportunity to scale companies. But it really necessitates really thinking about every stage of the buyer's journey. Like, what are they trying to do? Like, how do you de-risk, actually trying the product initially? How do you have sufficient value in the product to buy it? And what incentives are you offering for others to promote the product, within their organization or across individuals that they know? So it is a pretty powerful technique, and yeah, and it is in this conversation.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, and not only that, but especially on the marketing side, when we're seeing demand generation budgets shrink drastically, and not being able to really kind of have that continual nurture, the product itself can really do that work for you. And so I just think that between product-led growth and sales-assisted product-led growth, that's how we can tap the entire addressable market, no matter whether you're going after small, medium, mid-market, or enterprise customers. I think there's a
Yeah,
lot of value
absolutely.
in it.
It's a technique you can as we've talked about, if you have very much a standardized product, or even if you have one that's configurable and customized, it can all like you can use the product-led growth techniques, regardless of the situation.
Absolutely. And then get your partners involved, those who
Yep.
you're doing integrations with, and have your whole tech stack working for you as a customer. That's something
Yeah.
that Brendan and I've been doing for quite some time, and it's hopefully we're giving some folks some good nuggets out there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Brendan. I appreciate your time.
All right. Same here.
Mm.